Okay, we're going to do exercise 2G. So if you need to, pause this and get your lab manual out and turn to this exercise. So I want to kind of zip on through this. You can pause it any time. But these are some terms you need to know, the metric units for measurement. You'll notice I underlined the D for the distance and the W for weight and the V for volume. And the metric unit for distance is meter, and I'm sure you've had anything about high school track, it was measured in meters. Every time you buy something at the grocery store that's measured or sold by weight, they'll have ounces and pounds, but they'll also have grams by it. If it's by volume, they'll have ounces, but they'll also have liters, and most people are familiar with the 2-liter soft drinks. So you need to know those terms. And here are the terms we'll be using over and over. And it was a little confusing there, so I've kind of corrected it so it's less confusing. And we'll be hitting these several different times. But underline the I on milli and the TH on the th. And it shows you there what milli means. And I'll address the I later. And these are the others. So deca, it tells you how much, what those mean. Those that are marked out, don't worry about. Here are the things we'll be working with. We'll be working with the triple beam balance, and it's going to be measuring what the W stands for and what the G stands for. Do you remember what the W is? Weight in grams. The meter stick to measure D, distance, and it'll be measured in meters. And then we'll use graduated cylinders to measure volume in liters. Now, English conversions are complicated, and you'll need these to solve some problems later. So write these in. This would be a good place for it. And that's the English. I have all the way from cups to gallons. But you have teaspoons, you got tablespoons, you got a pinch, you got a smidgen. There's all kinds of measurements in English. So get those down. And then for weight, you'll need these on how much a pound is in a pound and how much is in a ton. But in English, we have drams, we have grains, a lot of others in English. And then for distance, we have feet, yard, miles. And that tells you how many are in each one. Most of you probably know those, so you need to get those written down because you're going to need them later. And here's why right here. You may have to use those 3 sets of formulas there to convert to a measurement you have a formula for on page 2-12. We'll be addressing that. And you will need to be able to read the meter stick, and I'll be going over that. This procedure 1, you're not going to have a meter stick there, so you don't have to fill out those blanks, so that's why it's X'd out. So close your eyes so I won't give you a dizzy spell here while I turn the page. So turn to page 2-12. And you have a series of formulas here. And the ones that the first bracket there in the D obviously is going to stand for distance. And you'll have to use those to convert metric to English and English to metric. So if you just write that down by it, you can zoom it or pause it and go back. So these are for weight. And I think you're seeing a pattern developing here. You'll use these to convert metric to English and English to metric. And this one is for volume. There's some red dots that bled through, so disregard those. And so I've kind of shortened it here, so I think you know what the M and the E and the E and the M stand for. And you don't have to worry about this procedure here. So turn the page. And these you will be using, and these are for conversions in temperature. And beside each one, so there's no confusion, I've written what each one will be used for. So let me zoom out, and then maybe you can see all of it at one time here. So that first one tells you what it's converting. When you're given Fahrenheit and you're solving for Celsius. I think you can read those. And the next one, when you're given Celsius and solving for Fahrenheit. The next one, when you're given Celsius and solving for Kelvin. And the last one, when you're given Kelvin and you're solving for Celsius. You're not going to have to solve all of them, just the ones I put a check mark by. I think I had just 1, 2, 3, just 4 of those, all you have to solve. So it's using the conversions. And since you don't have a triple beam balance there, you can't measure the weight of all those things, but you will need to be able to read the triple beam balance, and I'll be demonstrating that here in a little bit. Now here's the key to understanding the metric system. Most people think the metric system is so hard, but once you see the simplicity of it, you wonder why Americans are so stubborn that they just insisting on using all that system that is complicated. I've introduced the terms, and you can probably see it all. I'm going to zoom in and stress some things here, and if you write these in, it's going to make more sense. So if you'll do these, I have a reason for it. I'll zoom too much here, it's kind of blurry. Kilo, and I underline the K, underline that. So kilo means what's down below it, means 1,000. Hecto, underline the H, means 100. Deca means 10. And then unit, I had to kind of draw a circle, kind of loop around there, but unit means 1. And you recognize those from the first page. The unit for distance is meter, for weight, gram, for volume, liter. Deci, underline the D and circle the I. And that means 1/10. Centi means 100th and circle the I. Milli means 1,000th. And here's the key to it right here. All the terms that end with an I this is a corny crutch, incomplete, meaning they're less than 1 unit. And here's the key to it. And you kind of need to know the order, and I've given you a corny crutch down here. That's why I had you writing or underlining the first letter. So I'm going to go down here to my corny crutch. So write down those letters you underlined. K, H, D, U, D, and C. And here's my corny crutch. Now, if you can make up one that's cornier that you can remember, feel free to use it, but you're free to use mine. Here's what I used. When it gets cold, I can always remember this corny crutch. King Hector doesn't usually drink chocolate milk. Now, I put their value to the left. Let me see, I'm going to go slow here and see if you've already picked up. Can you tell me what the K stands for? K stands for, don't say king. K stands for kilo. Let's say it again. Let's say it out loud with me. K stands for kilo. H stands for hecto. See, that's right there in hector. K stands for kilo. H stands for hecto. D stands for deca. D stands for deca. U stands for the unit. For distance, it's meter. For volume, it's liter. For weight, it's gram. D stands for deci. I on the end, deci. C stands for centi. M for milli. Remember, if they have the I on the end, the term ends with a th. 1/10th, 100th, and 1,000th. So you got to put the th if it's got an I on it. Now let's look at the kind of the corny crutches here. On the kilo, most everybody knows that K means 1,000. Like if you see a car ad, if it says 20K miles and 17K in a car ad, everybody pretty much knows that means it's got 20,000 miles and they're asking $17,000 for it. Here's a corny crutch on hecto. The word 100 starts with an H. So hecto, 100. Hecto means 100. Deca, decade, there's 10 years. That's where the term decade comes from. The decade is 10 years. So deca is 10. The unit Uni is where you get the term unit. Uni is Greek or Latin. It means one, like in a unicycle with one wheel. All of our currency has e pluribus unum, out of many, one. So uni means one. Now, the D, C, and I, all of those end with a I. So look, D, decade does start with a D, but this ends with the I, so it's a tenth. There's 100 years in a century, C, but it starts with a C, but it ends with the I, so it's 100th. And a millennium is 1,000 years, so it starts with the M, but it ends with the I, so it's 1,000th. So if you get those down, the metric system is so easy. So here's my metric worm, and notice the direction those arrows are going. And once you get this, you can convert metric system on your fingers, in your head. And here's the key to it. And I'm going to hit it at a couple of different places here. So read along with me here. This is how it works. Move decimal place one space for each jump to the left when going to a larger unit.